What's up guys, Dawson Wadrick Nerdy in many ways, and thank you all so much for tuning into my last video, which is a cover of Three Doors Down's hit song, Be Like That. And I absolutely loved making it, loved making the video, and if you guys have any suggestions as to songs I should cover next, I'd be happy to hear some of your ideas. Definitely leave them down in the comment section down below. Definitely looking to expand my horizons as far as music is concerned and bring some great covers to you guys. With that, today I'm going to be going back to a movie review, but it's also going to be kind of a graphic novel review for you guys because the movie is based off that said graphic novel. And the movie slash graphic novel that I'm talking about today is the brand new Warner Brothers Studios production, Batman Hush. Now, there are spoilers ahead for both the movie and the graphic novel, so if you have not read either of them or have not read or watched one of them, then definitely go back and watch those or read it and then come back, because I'm going to talk about some main plot points of both of these productions. I'm going to be doing this in two different ways. I'm going to be talking about Batman Hush strictly as an animated movie and how entertaining it is and how well it does, and then afterwards we're going to compare it to its source material being the graphic novel of the same name, Batman Hush. Now, as a movie by itself, I feel like Batman Hush was very good. It tied really well with a couple of small little nods to previous animated movies from Warner Brothers Studios, such as The Reign of Superman, as well as Son of Batman, And I just thought it was very fun, very action-packed. Jason O'Mara did a great job voicing Batman. I feel like he's done a great job being that staple voice actor for the character for past couple of years, and has done a pretty good job. And the fight scenes were great. All the other voice actors did great. The only thing that I could complain about is the opera scene. But that, again, that's just an oversight. That's something you can easily look over. Not really an essential part of the story. The villains were done pretty good. Bane was, he wasn't as articulate as he usually is, but then again, that's kind of part of the story with Poison Ivy and everything. Poison Ivy was a well-done character, along with kind of Catwoman as a villain for a little bit. And then, of course, you had the Riddler and the Joker, and all those guys were done pretty well voice acted. And the ending fight scene was very entertaining, very thrilling, and very fun to watch. You know, the thing with this movie is it is based off of a graphic novel. So again, by itself as a movie, I would grade it as about a B+. It does pretty good, just simply as a movie. As a graphic novel adaptation, though, I would put it as a B- or C+. Because, again, I mentioned how when we talk about how it compares to the graphic novel, it does a lot of things that the graphic novel did not, and it takes away a lot of things that the graphic novel did do. For example, some of my favorite parts of the graphic novel Batman Hush were the flashback scenes with Bruce Wayne and Thomas Elliot, who is Bruce Wayne's childhood friend, who's also in the movie, but has a significantly lower part in this movie than he does in the graphic novel. And those flashbacks with Bruce, Thomas, and his parents, as well as them in Metropolis seeing the original Green Lantern, were fantastic parts of this graphic novel. Very well told part of the story, and I just really missed having that in this film. As well as the fight between Batman and Jason Todd in the graphic novel was completely taken out of the movie. It's kind of referenced to in the graveyard scene, but that part with Batman fighting Jason and the emotions that come out of that were essential to that graphic novel. In fact, some of those are some of the best drawn graphic novel scenes that I've ever seen. And again, those are just essential parts he took out. But the main gripe that many people have with this movie, as it being a graphic novel adaptation, was what they did with the villain Hush. Now, for those of you who aren't versed in comic book lore, or who haven't read the Batman Hush storyline and still decided to watch despite the spoiler warning, I'm just going to let you in on who Hush is. Hush was a brand new villain introduced in this graphic novel, which is now considered one of the best graphic novels in Batman lore. And it was exciting because, again, he's a brand new character, he's extremely intelligent and is a great fighter, and is really manipulative. In the graphic novel, he gets a lot of different villains to do his bidding for him, and basically they're very threatened by him. All these other villains are very threatened by Hush. Same thing in the movie, but to a different extent. Now, in the graphic novel, the reason that all those flashback scenes with Thomas Elliot are so important are because Thomas Elliot, Bruce Wayne's childhood friend, ends up being revealed as the character known as Hush. He is a well-known plastic surgeon who actually helps out Bruce Wayne earlier on in the movie, and he actually implants a tracking chip in Bruce Wayne during the brain surgery, and that's a very key part of the story. But in the movie, Thomas Elliott's character is completely neutered to just a murdered friend of his. He's not even the character Hush. The movie completely changed the character Hush into a different version of the Riddler. Now, both in the graphic novel and the movie, the Riddler uses the Lazarus Pit. And both the graphic novel and the movie involve a scene where Riddler is being interrogated by the Batman in Arkham Asylum. But how it ends up being the Riddler is very disappointing in the movie. In the movie, it talks about him coming out of Lazarus Pit, and all of a sudden he just knew everything. And he knew exactly who Batman was, and he was Bruce Wayne. And so he decided to be taken seriously, he needed to be a new persona. He needed to be a new villain. And so with this new persona, he was able to be manipulative of all these other characters, and he knew all of their different weaknesses and their different things that they're paranoid about, and so was able to exploit that. And so they kind of made it make sense in the movie, but it bugs a lot of fans. Now, many people say that as a maker of a movie or an adaptation, you're allowed to have some creative freedom, I guess you could say, which is true. You are allowed some creative freedom, but when you advertise a movie that is an adaptation of a graphic novel with the exact same cover art, there's a certain type of accuracy you have to stick to. I mean, at least with the main villain. Because, again, that completely neuters one of Batman's most iconic and awesome villains, really, in graphic novel lore. And he's been addressed in many different forms, such as the video game Arkham Knight, as well as Arkham City. And people know who that character is. And so when you completely change that background story of that character, it rubs some people the wrong way. And in the movie, they also explored more into Catwoman and Batman's relationship than the graphic novel did. I mean, of course, Batman and Catwoman had that first initial kiss and one other kiss later, and then that was basically just them working together throughout the rest of the graphic novel, whereas the movie kind of explores that a little bit more. Catwoman wants to go away and leave these things behind, and the difference between the ending of the relationship between Batman and Catwoman in these two adaptations is pretty significant. In the graphic novel, Batman just decides he can't trust her anymore because she says hush to him. And so he's paranoid, as Batman is, and he decides to cut it off and not trust anyone. Whereas in the movie, at the end, Batman's trying to save the Riddler from dying in an explosion in the warehouse in the final scene, and Catwoman decides to hell with this and claws at the thing that Batman's using to keep the Riddler up. The Riddler dies, and both Batman and Catwoman get out of there, and Batman basically says he didn't have to die. And Catwoman realizes, oh, he's not willing to change his code. I would have changed for him, but he's not willing to change for me. And so, very different style as far as the relationship goes. Very different story arc for that. And again, both were executed pretty well. But again, there's a certain kind of accuracy you kind of have to stick to when you advertise this kind of a graphic novel to this scale. Like, for example, you have the Dark Knight Returns graphic novel by Frank Miller. Fantastic, well-known graphic novel. In fact, it's probably the one comic book storyline that really saved the Batman character from campiness and being left to the wayside. And the movie for that was split into two parts because a graphic novel contains a lot of information, contains a lot of storyline, a lot of side stories, and things like that. And so Warner Brothers did it right when they split the Dark Knight Returns animated movie into two parts. I can't believe I just said Warner Brothers did something right. So they could have easily done that with Batman Hush, but they wanted to rush it together as well as surprise comic book fans about the villain Hush and change things up a little bit, which I guess is creative freedom at work, but again, it was just a little bit disappointing to fans. And so that's my review on Batman Hush, the animated movie, compared to its graphic novel. If there are any other graphic novels that have been adapted to a movie that you'd like me to review, or just movies in general, definitely leave them down in the comment section down below. Definitely like and subscribe. You can see places to subscribe to me or like my channels both on Twitter, Facebook, as well as Instagram. Definitely check those out. And I'll be keeping you guys updated on future videos. So until then, see you guys soon.